because we ourselves have not valued ourselves as a priority to make sure that they notice and held accountable. Okay? So unless we, and again, it goes right back to everything we're talking about today, you got to use that key to open up the doors for you, baby. Okay? You got to say, I want my key, and I'm going to use my key because I want to sleep on a bed that's got a nice mattress. I want to be able to access the food in the refrigerator. You know, I want to be able to watch TV. I want to be able to enjoy all the luxuries that I can have. So it's the same thing with the systems. If you don't open up that key to accessing these systems, then out of sight, out of mind. And like the late, great Bill Crawford used to say, if you're not at the table, you are on the menu.
Yep.
So when you don't utilize your key, when you don't utilize your voice, when you don't stand up for your rights and your children and your quality of life, because you are due that. Mm-hmm. But do you exercise that and talk about it?
That's right.
Because it's not like Avon used to be, or Girl Scouts selling cookies come knocking on your door. Mm-hmm. That ain't going to happen. Those days are over with. And so we must become more impassioned about loving ourselves, believing in ourselves, get away from the materialistic and look at the holistic being of oneself, and being that leader of that family and preparing your children with the future of understanding they're beautiful, they have meaning. Okay, our black boys under attack right now. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what are we doing, parents, to say, no, my son is not going to become a statistic. You're not going to let the system take my child.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And until, but see, we as a culture have a tendency to not respond or get involved until it lands on your doorstep. Mm-hmm. Then you want the cavalry to come. I need a casket. I am so sick and tired of GoFundMe's. I'm so sick and tired of saying I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired with these black on black shootings and killings, because we have become a part of our own self-destruction. Mm-hmm. The thing that hurt me the most, right in this area not too long ago, I was looking at Facebook, and it was the woman that got killed by the security officer in the apartment community. Mm-hmm. And when I saw that on Facebook, they were going up to that woman's body. Here, that's somebody's child, somebody's daughter, laying on the street. Is her chest still moving? Is she still breathing? Didn't you see him cursing the security guy? You know, call him all kind of names. Took about a half hour for an ambulance to get there. Then the police got to move the people away from the woman's body. You know, why are we... Now, that got 50 gazillion likes.
Right.
But when you put out information of resources, things that can get your family ready, you might be lucky if you get a few hits of likes on it.
This is true.
That's a fact.
This is a fact.
Now, you tell me where we are setting our priorities.
This is a fact.
If it's now when you got your meal and you got your hair done, okay, or you get I've been out to so and so, I'm at the airport, you know, I mean, you get 50 million likes on that.
This is true.
But when it comes time to feed our minds and prepare our children, oh, that ain't sexy enough.
You are absolutely 100%
that ain't sexy enough.
Accurate. And correct.
And so unless we change that mindset to inform and educate, enlighten, you know, get out of that box. Get out of being comfortable. Make yourself a little uncomfortable.
That's right.
And that's strictly on our community doing that. We don't share enough information and resources. But you can see all kind of murders. When somebody got shot, when they out here on my block, man, what's going down? Look at it. Ooh. But when you put something out of education information, that ain't sexy enough.
You're right. Because I could probably say I posted this flyer all week, and it probably only got 5 or 6 likes, but then when I post something else, they got about 20. So you're right. We don't continue to share the information. And I would just say, you know, the impact of not voting on communities of color is back to your point of policy. When we don't vote, we have people in office who don't represent us, and they continue to create policies that have an adverse effect on our communities, especially when it comes to like criminal justice. And
then you have individuals, because there's not a lot of positions that have term limits, right? And so then you have individuals that have become comfortable with their paycheck. They're going to get reelected every year. And so who are you? You know, I'll tell you who I am. I'm your employer. That's who I am. That's who I am. How about that? But they become comfortable. And I had a politician, this was several years ago, I'm not going to say the name, but they said, well, you just don't understand. I said, well, then teach me. Help me understand.
Right.
If you think I'm beneath your level and I don't understand, then that's your job to teach me and tell me and help me understand. But see, it's that persona that they forget their constituency. They forget from whence they came.
That's right.
And so they get comfortable in these seats, term after term after term after term. And it becomes a guaranteed paycheck and affiliation and dedication to a particular body of people, as opposed to the constituents that elected them and cast their vote to keep them in that office. We need to flip that script.
Ooh, that was some heat she just dropped.
It was. it was. So, we're going to move on to the next question. And I also want to say, not just making your voice heard when you're out protesting, but now what is the steps past protesting? That comes into getting out and voting and having people in office who support who support your communities and who have the ability to create those policies that are going to make change or have a lasting impact in our communities. Question 5. What are some things community leaders can do to increase voter participation locally? So this is always a hot topic, because from a community standpoint, you have some leaders who don't want to get involved when it comes to politics, whether it be faith-based leaders, leaders who lead community centers. I mean, just for whatever reasons, they don't want to get involved. 501c3s are, they're limited in what they can do and publicly come out and say. So what are some things that community leaders can do to increase voter participation locally, even faith-based leaders? What are some things that they can do? Because a lot of times they're quiet, they're silent, but then on Sundays when a candidate is wanting to run, they show up at church. You know, we be like, oh, praise the Lord, Hogsett is here. Okay, I don't care about you coming to church to see me, because that means nothing to me. What are you going to do outside of that church? Right. And as a pastor, you should be responsible to say, okay, does this person align with what my congregation or what I'm teaching my congregation before you allow them to come up in the pulpit? I understand this. You have to get out and they have to be heard, but what can they do, basically? What can we do?
Yeah, so I think that we have to be innovative and creative on how we educate the general community at the grassroots level. That's why I applaud and appreciate Councilwoman Jackson for doing voter registration, and not just doing voter registration, but having some chicken as well. So it's incentive. It's an incentive to come by. Even if you don't register, you're gonna come by and get the chicken. You're gonna hear the information subconsciously. So I think we have to continue to be innovative and creative with things like that. I think we have to educate more, because people simply just don't understand. They don't know how to vote for. They don't know who's on the ballot. They don't know what those offices do. And so the more we can educate and engage them, I think is critically important. And then, social media is a great form to be able to educate people. You know, a lot of pastors, if not most of them, have a Facebook page. And so they have an opportunity not just to be on there Sunday morning, but you can be on there Monday talking with Hogsett. You can be on there Tuesday talking with Andre Carson. You can be on there Thursday talking with your school board candidates and engage in conversations using the resources and platforms that are out there.
I think that so-called community leaders. Now that's a whole nother
This is
subtitle.
a so-called. I caught that.
Yeah.
So-called.
Just like some people use the term grassroots, but you don't understand that true definition. So I'm going to use the analogy that I relate to community leader, because I think a community leader, if you're a good mother and a father, you're a community leader.
That's good.
Okay?
That's good.
Because you're raising your family for your son not to be a statistic, okay? For your daughter not to fall to kidnapping, okay? So I look at community leader as everybody has the ability to lead. If it ain't nothing but your immediate family.
That's good.
Okay, so let me just say that.
That's
When we
good.
talk about community leaders.
Thank you, Big Sis, for clarifying that.
Now
That's good.
Yeah. Now to the public community leaders, then I'm gonna go to the people beyond the churches, because I agree with you. There, goes back to that separation of church and state. Okay. And there's not a politician around that doesn't have their faith-based person. They want to go get the best bang for their buck. Okay? Where can I talk to the most clergy people so I don't have to go to every little little church, to hit them? You understand? So see, that's the politics of the politics. Now, but I do believe that we should not just be triggered by elections. Okay? I think we should be triggered by this becomes a part of our everyday life. So when you go in your community centers, when you go into your libraries, when you go into your churches, when you go into the Boys and Girls Club, when you go into these common areas, that you're always seeing information to vote. Okay?
That's
because
good.
it should not just be during an election. Everybody gets hyped up because they're running for office during the election. Okay. But if you're talking about changing a world, okay, you also have to change a mindset.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Okay? And so if we only look at voting and election and drives when people are running for office for the sake of those who are running for office, which that's a reality of it, we get that, okay? But ingrain it in your children. Take them to the poll with you, okay? Let them see that process. Explain that process to them, okay? Then not only during election time, but 365 days of the year,
That's good.
voter registration should occur.
That's good.
But I'm going to say that, that with the registration must also be the education.
That's it.
Okay, because a lot of people feel like I'm not voting in the primary. I'm just voting on the general election, or vice versa. Or even right now, some people are like, well, I'm just so tired of everything. I'm just not going to vote, period. That is the worst thing that you could possibly do, period. And so with that, we just have to say everybody is a leader. Everybody has an opportunity to lead. Now, you choose personally the level of your leadership.
That's right.
You choose what level you want to get in, how deep of the dive that you want to do. But at the very, very least, lead your family, lead your children. Because that's part of the dysfunction that we have in this community right now. We got parents that are not leading their children. Otherwise, Johnny and Betty wouldn't be down there on the canal at 11 o'clock at night, shooting up people and robbing folks. Now, I'm not trying to put anybody in categories. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying things that you see on TV that you know exist.
Right.
Okay? Where was your mom and your daddy at?
You're right.
Lead your family.
That's good.
So I think we all have opportunities to be leaders. It just decides where your comfort zone, where your sweet spot is for you, and how you choose to lead. But life is too short to not lead somebody, somewhere. And I don't think there's a parent around that doesn't want the best for their children and for their children to aspire even higher than what they achieved. So just lead your family if you don't lead nothing else. And with that, ingrain the principles of the importance and significance of voting and elections and local and township and national government and how they affect your life. I've been fighting for years saying they need to redo those food stamp guidelines, okay? They have not kept up with the rate of inflation. But that's a legislative move. Right. And if there was a body big enough, because people are being denied right now from the trustee's office and for food stamp assistance, of course, a lot of things went away with COVID, right? But then you have the extreme. Then you have other people like, man, I got $1,200 on my food stamp card. And they going to sell them. So see, systems can create underground systems that circumvent the intended